So breaking news today, not only did Ben Johnson return to Detroit, now Bobby Slowik has returned to the Houston Texans. Two massive, massive things I can't believe happened. Let's talk about it. Before I get into it, hope you guys do enjoy. If you do, please leave a like, comment, subscribe. Yeah. One, when Ben Johnson returned to Detroit today, I even said in my video with the Atlanta Falcons, I guess you guys haven't seen that video yet. Never mind. I said in all my that was it, my Washington Commanders rebuild video, right? And in all my rebuilds I've planned out throughout until the draft, until free agency starts, I have said that Ben Johnson, wherever he wants to go, is where he's gonna go, right? Uh, whether it was the mock draft video, whether it was the best job for a head coach, whether it was the Washington Commanders rebuild, I've been saying that Ben Johnson's going to choose where he goes. But I would not be shocked if he says, you know what? The job I want is not open yet. You know, the job with a good quarterback, a solid offense, and a solid defense isn't there yet. I'm going to stay in Detroit. And I didn't think he would do it, but I said that's a route he could go that if I'm him, I'm doing. But I thought he wanted to be a head coach. Obviously, he comes back to the Detroit Lions today. Massive. They were one play away from the Super Bowl. Just straight up. They were on that third down, right? On that third down, if they would have thrown the ball instead of ran it, I genuinely believe if they would have gotten a touchdown or even an incompletion, they would have done the fourth down play, gotten a touchdown. I think they could have gone to the Super Bowl because their defense is doing solid all day. And if that defense knew, hey, guys, come here. If all we do is get one stop, right? We get 1 3 and out this right here, right now. We have a chance to go to the Super Bowl. We put it back in Jared Goff's hands. They can try and go for a field goal, right? That opportunity was there. But I think the defense even knew the second that they called that first timeout of the 3, they knew the game was over. So like the what's it called? The expectation of, well, nothing we can do. You know, the onside kick didn't get caught. We're out of timeouts. They're gonna run the ball. It's game over. Yada yada. I think if they would not have done that play, they would have been in the Super Bowl this week or the next week. On top of that, I think that means it's bad blood for Ben Johnson, where he's like, you know what, I want to prove that I'm better. I want to win a Super Bowl here in Detroit. We have the team. We have $60 million in cap space. We have barely any free agents outside of Jerry Jacobs and CJ Gardner-Johnson. That's the only 2 free agents we have that we really want to re-sign, right? We have all of our draft picks, $60 million in cap space. We have a young core that we are developing still. All we need is another wide receiver, a couple of corners, maybe another linebacker, maybe another pass rusher. There's a lot that we can do next season. And what I got to do is I want to get better and I want to win a Super Bowl for the city of Detroit. And that is, in my opinion, the best choice that he could have made. Because obviously the Atlanta Falcons head coaching job was what I would have wanted, but they chose Raheem Morris over him. Another job I would have wanted was probably the Buccaneers. If they would have fired Todd Bowles, I would have wanted the Buccaneers job. Seattle's interesting. I'm shocked that he didn't want Seattle. That is one. I'm being serious. I'm shocked he didn't do that. I thought Seattle would have been one of the first jobs taken up. Mike Vrabel's still an option out there though, so who knows? I'm genuinely I'm more shocked that Bobby Slowik didn't get a head coaching job than I am Ben Johnson. Because again, Ben Johnson I thought had the possibility of going back. Like, you know what? 2 years, either the number 1 offense or a top 5 offense, and an NFC Championship appearance. I want to go win a Super Bowl. And Dan, you're the man. I'm gonna be with you. Brad Holmes. Brad Holmes, you're a great GM. You can continue the draft well. I think that's a great move by him. And I think maybe he doesn't want to be a head coach. That's another thing I think is possible. You know, a lot of head coordinators around the NFL right now are long tenured coordinators that have either never been a head coach or a head coach once for 4 years, got fired, and never wanted the job again. Right? There's a lot of guys out there that are doing that right now. For example, I'm trying to think. Jim Schwartz, right? He was a head coach at one point, has been a defensive coordinator or a defensive assistant coach ever since. Another person I'm trying to think of. Todd Monken, same thing. I don't know why I'm blanking on anyone's name. Edro Rivero still has not gotten a head coaching look yet. And he's one of the best defensive coordinators in football. Like, I think it's very interesting to see. Sometimes guys don't want to be head coaches, right? Sometimes they become a coordinator, they hit as a coordinator, they get a lot of interviews, Eric Bieniemy is another guy. That's the one I was thinking of. Eric Bieniemy still has not been hired as a head coach anywhere. You know, maybe he's just one of those guys that isn't going to be a head coach anytime soon. Maybe we'll never be a head coach, but he's going to be one of the best coordinators in football, you know? And Ben Johnson has a really cushy gig in Detroit, man. They have a really good team, really good head coach, really good GM, in a city that if they ever win a Super Bowl, is never going to have to pay for a beer anywhere he goes. Never have to pay for food wherever he goes. He will be renowned in Detroit if they win a Super Bowl. That is a plus. That is a plus in my opinion. You know, if you go to like the Pittsburgh Steelers, oh yeah, they have so many Super Bowls. The Patriots, so many Super Bowls, yada yada. But the very first Super Bowl for an NFL team that has struggled like them, Cleveland and Detroit are the two that if you win a Super Bowl in those towns, you never have to pay for anything ever again, right? Bobby Slowik, honestly, is more shocking though. I really thought Bobby Slowik was gonna get hired away. We've seen the last 5 years these one and done offensive coordinators who are on a really good staff. Like Kevin O'Connell is a great example, right? He's a really good coordinator on a really good team, right? Shocks the world, boom, gets hired. Mike McDaniel, same thing. Kevin O'Connell, Mike McDaniel, Matt LaFleur in Green Bay, Zach Taylor with the Cincinnati. These coordinators who are 1, maybe 2 years and done, boom, hired as a head coach, right? I'm shocked Bobby Slowik that didn't happen to him. I really am. Showed how good he can be as an offensive play caller. A lot of teams needed an offensive head coach, you know, an offensive-minded head coach, and he returned to Houston. Again, that, in my opinion, is more shocking than Ben Johnson, because Ben Johnson, right? He's on a Super Bowl contending team. Houston isn't quite there. You know, maybe he met with DeMeco Ryans, and DeMeco's like, hey man, I want you to, you know, get a head coaching job, but please stay, right? Like, help us continue to develop CJ Stroud. That could be what happened. And if that's what happened, fair game. You know what I mean? That's fair. But that is more shocking that Bobby Slowik is back as an offensive coordinator, because we've seen the trend in the NFL. You hire these 1 or 2 years as offensive coordinator guys, young, who are emerging as, wow, this guy's a great offensive mind. Boom, he's a head coach the next day, right? So Bobby Slowik going back for another year is good for CJ Stroud, good for DeMeco Ryans, good for the Texans, good for Bobby Slowik, right? Still good, but it's shocking. Ben Johnson going back to Detroit, it continues to make that team a Super Bowl caliber team. Not that him leaving means that Dan Campbell, that's not no longer a Super Bowl caliber team, but their offense I would expect less from, right? I'm now expecting the exact same offense next year, right? The exact same top 3, top 5, potentially number 1 offense I'm expecting next year. The defense gets some secondary members. What I really like about what Aaron Glenn did, Aaron Glenn said, you know what? There's too many holes on the defense, right? How about I'm going to commit everything in my power to have the best run defense in the NFL, right? The best run defense in the NFL, and they had it. Secondary was rough, but he even said, I decided to choose, am I going to have an average defense overall, or the number 1 passing, run defense and a pretty bad pass defense? He chose the right option in that, right? Instead of having a mediocre to bad defense, you have an excellent run defending team and that's pretty bad pass defending team. And all you have to do is, in my opinion, re-sign CJ Gardner-Johnson, right? You only got 1, maybe 2 regular season games out of him. You saw how good he was in the playoffs. Re-sign CJ Gardner-Johnson. You have Kirby Joseph. You have Ifeatu Melifonwu. Wow. Those 3 safeties are amazing. You then got, you can re-sign Jerry Jacobs, have Cam Sutton, draft Kool-Aid McKinstry, draft Terrion Arnold, draft Cooper DeJean, draft Quinion Mitchell, right? Draft one of the top 4 or 5 corners in the draft, and you make a big splash of free agency with your $60 million. You go after one of the top corners in free agency. Boom. Secondary's fixed. Linebacker. You got Jack Campbell in the draft last year. Let him develop. Go for a Devin White, right? Go for a Levante David. Go for an aged veteran, maybe, who wants to win a Super Bowl. Go for a Kenneth Murray, for an Eric Kendricks. Go for these guys who are going to play for your team, because now you're a Super Bowl contending team. You got the money. You got the draft capital. You got everything you need to win a Super Bowl, right? You got the head coach who's good. Offensive coordinator who's good. Defensive coordinator who proves he can be really good. And a GM who's good. And an excellent roster. It makes sense why Ben Johnson would go back to that situation, right? That's why I said, I'm not shocked that Ben Johnson went back. I'm shocked that Bobby Slowik went back. I think it's great for both coordinators, though, right? I'm a fan of not the one and done offensive coordinators. For example, Kevin Stefanski was a big part of the Vikings run game for years. Becomes an offensive coordinator for a year or two, goes to the Cleveland Browns. But he was a big part of that run offense for years. Another example, right? The Eagles last year. Jonathan Gannon and Shane Steichen, right? They were there for 2-3 years, and they have been long passing game coordinators, quarterbacks coach, wide receivers coach. Then they get a chance to coach. They have 2-3 years in Philadelphia together. They go to a Super Bowl. Boom. Both of them get hired, and they're both really good, right? Because they had the time to develop as play callers, time to develop as, coordinators who can manage that part of the team. And eventually, it all culminated in a great season to where they both got hired away. I think that can happen. I think it can happen for both these guys next year, right? I think it should have happened for Ben Johnson this year. He did it right? He stayed. He came with Dan Campbell in 2021. They had a bad season, right? 2022, they had a 9-8 season, almost made the playoffs, but Ben Johnson was a head coaching name. He said, no, I want to stay because I know what we can do in Detroit. Stays for a third year. Boom. 12 or 13 wins, NFC Championship game. Says, no, I want another year. I want to run it back. I want to develop more. He's going back for a fourth year as an offensive coordinator. If I'm Bobby Slowik, I'm doing the same thing, right? I mean, you guys already boomed in the first year. Bobby Slowik, you can ride this out in Houston for CJ Stroud's rookie contract. Then once he is a finished, polished quarterback, all right, I'm going to go now. CJ, you're ready. D'Amico, you're ready. I'm going to leave, and I'm going to get my own team and repeat the process. If that's what Bobby Slowik is doing, taking the Ben Johnson route of, I'm going to develop for a couple of years instead of being these one-and-done offensive coordinators like Dave Canales, like Zach Robinson, right? 1 year as a passing game offensive coordinator is already a passing game coordinator is going to be an offensive coordinator in in Atlanta, right? Brian Callahan. Oh, Brian Callahan's a great example. He's been an offensive coordinator for 4 years. And boom, he stayed in Cincinnati, developed, showed that not only with Joe Burrow, but with Jake Browning, he can develop. Boom, as a head coach. I think Ben Johnson is taking that route. I think Bobby Slowik should take that route, and I'm happy to see he's taking that route. Because I think that's how you become a better head coach who can last for 10, 15, 20 years with the same team. And Ben Johnson's doing it right. And I'm happy to see Bobby Slowik is doing it right. I'm as shocked that Bobby Slowik is going that route because I really did think he was going to get a head coaching job this summer. But yeah, they both go back. Good for them. I hope they both find success this season. If you guys do enjoy, please like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys later. Again, more off-season plan videos coming. So I'll see you guys later. Peace and bye.